Scene opens with a warm, inviting shot of a couple's home. Maybe a framed photo of a smiling man and woman. Mark loved Sarah with every fiber of his being. To him, she wasn't just his wife, she was his sunrise, his sunset, the very reason he pushed himself to the limit every single day. They had dreams, big ones, painted in vibrant colors on the canvas of their future. A house with a small garden, 2 kids laughing in the yard, and a life free from the financial worries that had shadowed their parents. To make this dream a reality, Mark took on a demanding job as an architect. It meant long hours, countless nights spent staring at blueprints under the glow of a desk lamp, and weekends sacrificed to meet deadlines. Every time he called Sarah on his way home, exhausted but hopeful, he'd say, "Just one more project, honey, we're almost there." He could almost picture her smile through the phone, the one that first made him fall in love. He imagined her at home, waiting for him, perhaps reading a book or watching their favorite show. He missed her terribly during those long hours, but the thought of the future he was building for them was the fuel that kept him going. He was laying the foundation brick by brick for a life he believed they both wanted. He thought she was laying it with him, just from the comfort of their home, holding down the fort. He couldn't have been more wrong. The first crack in his perfect picture appeared subtly. It was a Tuesday. Mark had managed to finish a project ahead of schedule and decided to surprise Sarah. He bought her favorite flowers, a bouquet of bright yellow tulips, and practically skipped to their front door, his heart light for the first time in weeks. As he turned the key, a wave of silence washed over him. It wasn't the peaceful quiet he was used to. It was an empty, hollow silence. "Sarah!" he called out, his voice echoing in the hallway. No answer. He checked every room. Her car was in the driveway, her purse on the kitchen counter, but she was gone. He called her phone. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. A knot of unease tightened in his stomach. He told himself not to worry. Maybe she'd gone for a walk or to a neighbor's. An hour later, she walked in looking flustered. "Oh, Mark, you're home early," she exclaimed, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I just stepped out for some fresh air." He wanted to believe her. He really did. But her perfume seemed different, stronger, mixed with a faint, unfamiliar scent of men's cologne. He pushed the thought away. He was just tired, paranoid from the stress. He handed her the flowers, and she thanked him, but her hug felt distant, hurried. The small oddities began to stack up like mismatched blocks, threatening to topple his world. There were late-night girls' nights that seemed to happen more and more frequently. Her phone, which used to lie face up on the table, was now always flipped over or kept in her purse. One evening, he came home to find her on the phone, her voice a hushed whisper. The moment she saw him, she quickly ended the call with a clipped, "I'll talk to you later." When he asked who it was, she brushed it off. "Just my sister," she'd say, avoiding his gaze. The trust he'd placed so blindly in her began to erode, grain by painful grain. Mark felt like he was losing his mind. The man who designed skyscrapers with unwavering precision could make sense of the architecture of his own life. Was he imagining things? Was the stress of his job making him suspicious? He hated the person he was becoming, the man who would check her call logs when she was in the shower, the husband who would analyze every text message notification that popped up on her screen. He found nothing concrete, just a series of friendly messages from a David from her gym. The messages were casual enough, but their frequency and the late hours they were sent gnawed at him. He felt ashamed for his snooping, for his lack of faith. He loved Sarah, and he felt like he was betraying her with his suspicion. The breaking point came on their 5th wedding anniversary. Mark had planned the perfect evening. He left work early, a feat that required weeks of planning, and booked a table at the fancy Italian restaurant where he'd proposed. He put on his best suit, the one she said made him look like a movie star. He waited at the restaurant, the candles flickering, the wine breathing on the table. An hour passed, then 2. He called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. The waiter looked at him with pity. Humiliation and a cold, creeping dread washed over him. He paid for the untouched wine and drove home, his heart a leaden weight in his chest. He found her note on the kitchen counter, right next to the wilting tulips from weeks before. It was short, brutally so. It didn't mention love or apologies, just practicalities. "Mark, I've gone. I'm with David. He makes me feel alive. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce, Sarah." The words blurred as tears welled in his eyes. Alive? What had he been doing for the last 5 years? He wasn't just working. He was pouring his entire soul into building a life for her, for them. Every late night, every missed dinner, every ounce of exhaustion, it was all for her. While he was building their future, she was finding her life in another man's arms. The blueprints for their life together were now just a pile of ash at his feet. The days that followed were a blur of pain. The house, once a symbol of their shared dream, became a mausoleum of memories. Every corner held a ghost Sarah laughing in the kitchen, them cuddling on the sofa. Mark stopped going to work. His ambitious projects, his career, it all seemed pointless now. What was the point of building a future when the person you were building it for had demolished it so carelessly? His friends tried to reach out, but he ignored their calls. He was trapped in a vortex of betrayal and sorrow, sinking deeper and deeper. One morning after another, sleepless night, Mark looked at his reflection. He saw a stranger, broken, hollowed-out man. The spark in his eyes was gone, replaced by a profound sadness. He thought of all his sacrifices. He had traded precious moments, time he could never get back, for a dream that turned out to be a lie. He had worked late to build their future, while she had shared their nights with another. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow. He finally understood. He hadn't just lost his wife, he had lost a part of himself, a part that believed in fairy tales and happily ever afters. But as he stood there, staring at the shell of the man he'd become, a tiny flicker of defiance sparked within him. He had built skyscrapers from nothing. He had turned empty plots of land into monuments of human ambition. He knew how to build. He had the blueprints. Sarah had taken the old plans, but he could draw new ones. This time, the future he would build would be his and his alone. It would be a structure built not on a fragile dream for two, but on the solid foundation of his own strength and resilience. The work would be long and hard, just like before, but this time he was building a home for his own heart. The first step was to pick up the phone and call his friend back. The first step was to start again. This story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the foundations we build our lives on can crumble. But it's our ability to pick up the pieces, to redraw the plans, and to start building again that defines our true strength. If you or someone you know is struggling with heartbreak or feeling lost, please remember you are not alone. Reaching out to friends, family, or a professional can be the first step toward rebuilding. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that explore the complexities of life and the resilience of the human spirit. We'll see you in the next one.